A mother clutched her kids as stormy water swallowed the boat. Seconds later, she was the only one left. 9 family members lost, a tragedy long warned about and ignored. What if they waited 5 minutes? What if someone listened? This wasn't an accident. It was preventable death, and someone is responsible. It was July 19th, 2018, a warm summer day in Branson, Missouri. A place built for joy, nestled among rolling hills and lakes. Tourists flock to this small town every year, not just for the shows and shops, but for something more unique, the famous Ride the Ducks. Stretch Duck 7 was one of those hybrid vehicles, half bus, half boat, a quirky leftover
and that's why the
from
fish
World
was
War
wearing a
II,
tiny hat.
now reimagined for sightseeing. That afternoon, 31 people boarded it. Families, grandparents,
look at that.
little kids. One family,
The sky's getting really dark.
had
We have a
11
severe
members
thunderstorm
aboard.
warning for Table Rock
No one
Lake.
could have guessed how
Storm coming.
quickly
Get across
everything would
fast.
change. The captain cracked jokes, people laughed, some took selfies. The weather seemed fine, maybe a little cloudy, nothing serious. But while passengers were buckling in, the National Weather Service issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Table Rock Lake. High winds, dangerous waves, a powerful system approaching. The company's operations manager saw the alert. The captain was notified. But instead of postponing the trip, a decision was made. Speed up the lake portion before the storm hits. That one decision, made in seconds, would cost lives. The boat rumbled down the road and rolled into the water. Above them, the clouds grew darker. Beneath them, the lake waited. Calm for now. But nature doesn't wait, and it doesn't forgive warnings ignored. As the duck boat entered the water, there was still laughter in the air. The lake looked calm. Tourists leaned out for selfies. Some kids waved at people on shore. The rain hadn't started yet. It all seemed normal. But weather isn't just about what you see. It's about what's coming. 3 minutes after the boat entered Table Rock Lake, the storm slammed down like a hammer. Winds roared past 70 miles per hour. Waves rose to 4, then 5, then 6 feet high. Within moments, the calm lake turned into a violent battlefield. Inside Stretch Duck 7, chaos took over. The boat, designed decades ago for quiet tours, not violent storms, began rocking uncontrollably. Water splashed over the sides. The windshield wipers were useless. Visibility dropped to near zero. Passengers looked at each other, unsure if this was just a rough patch. But then came the line that would haunt everyone. "Don't worry, we won't need those life jackets." Captain Bob Williams, they didn't know that sentence, might cost them their lives. The boat had a canopy, a hard roof meant to shield tourists from sun and rain. But in this storm, it became a cage. Passengers couldn't climb out. The waves didn't just hit the boat, they crashed into it. Water rose fast. People screamed, others prayed. And then, at exactly 6:55 p.m., the boat slipped beneath the surface. Just 15 feet from the shore, but inside people were trapped, and most never came out. When the waters finally stilled, the screaming had stopped. The duck boat was gone, swallowed by the lake. Rescue boats arrived minutes later, but they weren't pulling people from the water. They were pulling bodies. And then came the number that stunned the nation: 17 dead. What shattered hearts even more was this: 9 of them were from a single family. Tia Coleman, a mother from Indianapolis, boarded the boat with her husband, 3 children, and in-laws. They left minutes earlier. Now she was alone. I couldn't see. I couldn't breathe. I just remember grabbing, hoping someone was still there. Tia Coleman, survivor. Her husband drowned. Her 3 kids, gone. Her parents-in-law, her uncle, her nephew, all gone. Only she and 1 nephew survived. The rest of her family vanished under the water. Imagine surfacing from a sinking boat and realizing you're the only one left. Tia would later say, "When I came up, I was surrounded by nothing, just floating, alone." But she wasn't the only one affected. Other passengers were trapped under the canopy. Some had their heads slammed by the metal roof. One woman recalled trying to unbuckle her seat, but water had filled her lungs before she could move. They never stood a chance. No warning, no life jackets. And for many, no escape. The media called it an accident, but survivors called it a nightmare no one should have lived through. This tragedy didn't come out of nowhere. In fact, it was predicted.
I know that it wasn't an accident.
Let's rewind to 1999. Hot Springs, Arkansas. A duck sank during a tour. 13 people drowned. The problem, the same issues. Hard canopy roof, lack of exit routes, no enforced life jacket use. After investigating, the NTSB issued a warning. Duck boats need redesign, remove canopies, improve escape access, better emergency response. But the industry pushed back. Duck boat companies claimed it would hurt the experience or reduce revenue. And the warnings, buried in bureaucracy. Fast forward to 2018. The same year, Stretch Duck 7 went under. The U.S. Coast Guard had issued a violation report on duck boats in Branson. They flagged weather concerns. They mentioned safety gaps. And still, nothing changed. That day on Table Rock Lake, the company received weather warnings hours before the ride. But instead of canceling the trip, they pushed to beat the storm. Even the captain was aware of the conditions. And yet,
there's a severe weather alert.
Passengers were told not to wear life jackets. The boat wasn't even structurally equipped for a thunderstorm. Its bilge pump system couldn't handle the incoming water. And its heavy build made it nearly impossible to steer once the waves hit. This wasn't just a bad call. This was a pattern, a systemic failure. And 17 people paid for it with their lives. So the real question is, who allowed this to happen? And why were they never stopped? Tia Coleman didn't just survive the duck boat tragedy. She became its voice. In the months that followed, she stood before cameras, lawmakers, and strangers, telling the same painful story again and again. Not for sympathy, but for change. "We didn't have to die that day," she said, voice trembling. "They saw the storm. They had warnings. They had options. But they chose money over lives." Ride the ducks. Branson shut down permanently. But duck boats still operate in parts of the U.S. Yes, even after 42 deaths from similar accidents since 1999. Congress heard her plea. The NTSB renewed its safety demands. But real enforcement, still patchy, still slow, still deadly. Tia visits the lake each year on July 19th. She doesn't bring flowers, she brings truth. Because her loss can't be undone. But it can be the reason no one else has to suffer like she did. So when you see a duck boat cruising on calm waters, ask yourself, is it really safe? Or just another tragedy waiting to happen? "The lake didn't kill my family," she once said. "Negligence did." Thanks for watching this emotional and eye-opening story. Tell us, which part hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more untold truths and real-life mysteries. Your support keeps stories like this alive.